Thank you very much for tuning in. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the museum and Santa Fe Railroad at the Chicago Museum of Science and History. Here you have a Alco PA in O scale pulling a set of an Exacta cars. And here you can see that train running down at the museum. This particular photo is from 1953 or after. Here's the familiar layout that you may have seen growing up. Basically a very simple layout with just a folded figure 8. Here's a more familiar photo here. The layout was installed in 1941 by Minton Cronkite and his crew, paid for by the Santa Fe Railroad to demonstrate and to use as advertising purposes. What a wonderful thing it is to take the train across America. The layout is huge. This is not your average basement layout. It was 50 feet across this way and 60 feet deep. So that's 3,000 square feet, or if you put two Chicago bungalows next to each other, this layout is still larger in footprint. The layout was installed in 41 in Q gauge by starting with steam engines and some very early diesels. Post-war, they changed out the, started updating the running stock and brought in these engines here, which were made by Bob Smith of Chicago, who worked for Wrigley Gum as a daytime job, and then made trains at nighttime. So he was hired by the Santa Fe to make these engines here. They're made out of this one's kind of unique. It has a cast bronze nose and cast aluminum, which is polished here body-wise. B units polished aluminum, and it's pulling a set of Exacta cars, which coming from Exacta, they were nickel finish, but the museum had them chrome plated, so they'd pop a little bit more here. These are actually 1764 scale, so they're actually quite large compared to 1/4 inch. The cars are molded copper over a kind of a wood skeleton. By 1952, the rail and layout needed some updating, so they added some features. They replaced all the rail. This is actually the same train here, the Alco PA playing the Exacta cars. But in 1952, they installed this hump yard here, put this little village in here, and added a few other features. Again, the Santa Fe kept updating the railroad, and Bob Smith was from Chicago here, from Central Locomotive Works, was the person involved in updating the layout for a number of times up into the 50s, and then supplying engines later on. The layout lasted until 2001, when it was removed, and a HO layout was installed at that time. So we'll run it a little bit more here. Thank you much for watching.